Welcome to this tutorial which I've called Not All Families Are the Same. Now this primarily relates to turn 1 of a new campaign for Total War Attila, but I will talk about some other odds and ends as I go through which may be useful. Now when you start a campaign in Attila, some things are predetermined and fixed, but there's a number of random elements that can have an effect on the campaign. Now, the one I'm going to deal with today in this video is the family traits. Now, I'm using the Saxon faction because it's got a well-rounded family which will help me illustrate the points I'm talking about. You see, the faction leader is Guis, and he has a daughter, Wulfrith, and the heir, Essla. Now, just as a point out, the name that appears below a married couple is always the family member. It's worth the thing when you get messages and you can't find people. I've been caught with this. I can't find someone in the family tree because Wulfrith appears there. Now, this guy is actually called Zen Roots, but the only way you can see it is by putting the cursor over his name. So that's just a minor point just to kick off. So what we're going to do is, when the game starts, there is a number of traits which are allocated automatically by the process, and they are predefined. These are, as you can see with Guis, he's harsh, which means he has a public order -1 all provinces, and he's charismatic, which gives him +1 authority, which means he should have 4 authority. Now, when all characters start, they always start with 3 authority, 3 cunning, 3 zeal, and as you can see, that they have neither negative nor positive effects. Now, these are the fixed terms. Now, what is random is, as you can see in this faction, Guis starts married. Now, not all faction leaders start married, but Guis does, and you can see this symbol's red. And you can see his wife's got some pretty awful traits. She's flirtatious. She has her eyes. He has eyes for me, and this will work in our advantage, my darling. In other words, she's already knocking about. Now, the personal influence +2 per turn is her personal influence. It means every turn she will put on +2 personal influence, which can be used to carry out various functions within the game. Now, you can also see she has -1 authority for her husband and -1 cunning for her husband, which means she's immediately cancelled out that trait, and she's also given Guis a drop. Now, these penalties can be quite harsh, you can see there, and it means that Guis starts the game with upkeep costs +7 for all units commanded force, or melee defense -10 for the commander's unit, maintenance costs +10 for the governed province. So you can see he's going to have an impact on the economy, and just to kind of illustrate that, we'll get out of that. Click on the army. If we look at the army now, you can see it's costing, to maintain this army, it's costing 1,498 gold. Now, just for the moment, try and hold that in memory. I will come back to that when I do the second part of this video, when I talk about the family with positive traits. But just to show that, whoops, not that, you can see that the current income per turn is 447. So just hold that in your head for the moment. So we're back to the family faction. So Guis starts off with some not particularly good traits. The other thing I will show is that he starts off as a marksman. This is the skill tree is predefined, and that's something you move down as he gains experience, either as a governor or as a general. But this trait here, marksman, is randomly allocated. So in this load, he's a marksman. He can give you +1 unit experience for all missile units from the beginning, and if you upgrade this to level 2, he can give 2 experience. So this is another random element that can have an effect. The good thing about this one is it always tends to be positive. You won't get anything negative from this one here. Now, Zen Roots we'll just have a look at Zen Roots Traits. Now you can see Zen Roots' wife's positive, and again she has 2 personal influence and 20% chance of having a husband, children, having a husband, which is a good trait for a family member, because obviously you want the family member to grow. But there you can see he's got a hard-coded trait of fearful, which means that he's not particularly very good as a general. I would probably say that he's a second string general. Certainly wouldn't be the top of the pile for a choice of a general. Now you can see here he's a powermonger. That's how you devour a whale, one bite at a time. So he gets personal influence +1 personal influence per earning situation, and that can go up to +2. Now the important thing to remember with that is, I'll just illustrate it by going back to Guis. Now Guis has personal influence +1 per turn as the faction leader. That means that every turn he will gain +1 personal influence. Below you see it says personal influence +3 per earning situation. Now he only gets that if he's a governor. But governors seem to be seen to be in an earning situation, so they gain this every turn. But as a general, he would only gain that when he wins a battle. So that's something worth remembering. So if you return back to here, to poor old Senrid, it doesn't mean he puts on +1 influence every turn. It only means that he would do that if he was a governor. So that's another point to be worth remembering. Now, Esther's the family heir. He likes a bit of claret, or the man enjoys the sight of blood, particularly enemy blood. So he gets +5 missile and melee damage for a commanded force. Not particularly brilliant trait, but useful if he was in the field. But you can see here he's been randomly allocated master planner, which means he gets +1 cunning and the option to have increased to +2 cunning. So you can see straight away he's got -2 upkeep for a commanded force and -2 upkeep for a governor, and he's got an immediate option to go up to there. So he's a pretty well-rounded character. Now, to be honest, if I was playing this campaign as myself, I probably would not go with this configuration. I would probably restart the game. Although, and I would immediately drop Essler into as a governor, so that he could gain some influence. So that's the main family tree. Now, what I'm going to do now is also look at these guys. As you can see, these guys they come with traits as well. And he understands battle, so he gets a +1 cunning. So that cuts the costs down on the general. He's got +1 zeal as well. So this guy's a pretty good general, and he's got the option to immediately bump to that level there. So you've got the core of a good general there. This guy, he's got stranger to fear. So again, they've got some. Just a quick flip through. Yeah, keen. You can see this one's got air and he's got zeal. So this is probably these guys have got a good trait. Now the other thing I'm going to do, this is a slight aside for just to illustrate a point. Now what I'm going to do is, not force details. What I'm going to do is replace. I mean, I would do this at the start of a normal campaign, but what I'm going to do is just show the effect of these replacing a general. Now I'm going to choose this guy down here. Now, as you can see, he's got this basically rounded traits, and it says he's a logistics expert, so he gets +1 replenishment. So if I choose him as a general and then recruit him, and there comes the sting in the tail. As you can see, the logistics expert is this skill. What's hidden from you is any traits. I admit that this is a bit of a put up. I've already looked at this, so I knew what was coming. But you can see you can get this trait. So you've recruited this guy as a general, and he's stupid, and you've got immediately +7 impact on there. So this is a point to remember, that these random elements kick in even when you recruit people. And another example is if I go to diplomacy,
Greetings, friend.
go here, try and arrange a marriage, you can see the Caledonians have got 2 daughters. They're both pretty good daughters, but there's no guarantee that they will have these traits if you started a campaign. So that's another point to remember, that as you go through the game, what potential wives, new generals, these guys down here, they may look really good, you know, master planner, great, but, and it says they're +1 cunning, but what you can't see is the hidden traits. It's a little bit of a cheat where with these guys you can, as you can see my stupid general there now, I've managed to recruit. So it pays to be, if it pays to have a few spares up here, because you will lose generals in battles and all that. And one of the good ways to do this, I know it's a deviation from what I'm talking about, is that it pays, if you're going to recruit generals from here, you want to do it when you can raise a new army, so you can see their stats and see if they're any good. And what you want to do is have a few generals up here, or a couple of spare generals in the family or something, so you can see the traits, so you know what you're going to drop into when you one of your generals dies or is murdered by an agent, which is quite common. So anyway, that's an example of a bad family. What I'm going to do now is kind of reload and bring in a new example of a good family. So we're just going to do that, and I'll see you in a minute. Here we are. What I've been doing is I've reloaded the campaign several times until I've got, I wouldn't say a family with brilliant random stats, but just it will illustrate the point I'm going to talk about. So we'll just get straight into the family. So this time you can see Gillis has kept his bonus from charismatic, and he's gained that. The reason for this is that he's now got a wife that's bringing 2 cunning to the relationship. So instead of having that horrible +7 extra costs, now he's now got -4 upkeep costs for the commanded force or the governed province. So you can see now he's got pretty good traits. He's still got that -public order, but he can't do anything about it because that's predefined. His skills have changed, and he's now a mentor. So he's now agent recruitment experience +1 and agent recruitment cost -15. So that's not probably quite so good, but can work with that given the other costs. Now, to illustrate the point that I was making, if we go to the army costs now, you can see that the army costs now are 1,338. And if you remember from when I showed it before, that it was 1,498. So that gives a difference of 160 gold in the army maintenance cost, and that's reflected down here in the income now. So the faction is now making an income of 607 gold per turn, and that may not seem fantastic, but in this early point of the game, that is going to make a difference on how quickly you can build up the empire and go that. And of course, if you I'm only 30 units, so if you started recruiting extra units to build this up to a full 20 stack, that difference would get bigger and bigger. So that's well worth doing. So we'll just go back to the family, and as you can see, so we've covered Gillis, just quick run through. as I say, he's now got some good stats, and he probably make a very good commander in the field, or governor. Now, poor old Senred, his wife, he's still fearful, so he's still pretty low key down there. His wife is now giving him +1 authority, so he's actually got +2 morale for commander's unit, but more importantly, he's now got +1 for a governed province, so that makes him even better as a governor. So he's now probably I would probably appoint him as the governor for Frisia, just like that, just to get in there. He will make a contribution to the family. Get back here. Essler, because he's got no wife, his stats are very much the same, but as you can see here, he's still a master planner, so he's got this bonus here, so he's makings of a good general. So I would certainly like to get him out in the field quickly, or yeah. So now these guys, they've basically kept their stats, as I say, because these stats seem to be fixed and these values changed. So as I say, if we can click back to here, he's now a champion rider, so he's got experience for cavalry now. So you can see the effect that these stats will have on the starting position of your campaign. And there now, just as the fun aside again, what we'll do is just to show the
Ready for orders.
point of there. We'll do is that. Where's our good friend? What was his name? Escript. Again, you can see these tend to be fixed. So there's our mentor. And this guy's the mentor now. So he's got that. But if I went to recruit him,
Warriors all.
you can see this time he's actually got reasonable. He hasn't got any definite traits, but he's actually gained a wife this time. And you can see, he's gained 1+1 cunning, and this kind of illustrates the random nature of picking your generals. To say, last time he was absolute rubbish, he was stupid and not much good for anything. This time he's come across quite nicely. He's even gained a wife, so it goes to show that wives for these generals and other officials can be randomly allocated. And she's brought some good traits there. I mean, he's got there. So that just illustrates that point. So what we'll do now is just zip into diplomacy just to show
The gods will have me listen to you.
princesses, and you
but
see
do
this
not pass
time
the day in words without merit.
one daughter's a tribal midwife, and she brings public plus order to governing. But you can see her sister is flirtatious, so you certainly wouldn't want her in the family. I mean, she would have a certain negative approach on there. So, and I'll say we'll have a quick look at the Danish princess
Flapping
while we're
tongue
at
that
it.
speaks without wisdom
Yep.
is not welcome.
And you can
Be
see this
like
time
a
she's
spear
superseded. This is
and
a
have a point.
reasonable example of the fact that's green, but you can see she's got hostile agent success chance +5. Now that doesn't seem bad, but if she was married to a general in the field, that would increase the chance of that general being killed by an agent accident. So again, she probably wouldn't be a first choice for a faction heir or a faction leader, because obviously you want them to live a long time, and you don't want them to be able to be subject to agent action. As we all know, agent action can be one of the more irritating aspects of the game. So hopefully that won't go on much longer, because I think we've covered the main points. I hope that hopefully this has illustrated the point I'm trying to make, that not all first turn family conditions are the same, and the family traits can have a big impact. I know a lot of players don't think much of the family, but It will have an impact on your initial campaign. I won't say it's going to be make or break, but I would recommend that whenever you start a new campaign in Attila, you always have a look at the family, look at the traits, decide if you can live with them. If you don't, I know some guys are going to say, you're cheating. Restart the campaign until you get something you like. I mean, but please bear in mind that it's a balance. So you could start loads and loads of times and you're not going to get a perfect start. So don't try and restart for a perfect start, perfect traits in all your family members. Just restart, get there. The ones to watch are the ones that reduce cunning, because they will have a big impact on your finances. And it's also worth remembering that these traits can be recovered over time. So if you get these traits in a later game from one of your family members, you can compensate them, get them out there, getting some experience, and one way or another, and they will basically compensate it. But also remember that if you have someone who starts with very, very bad traits, they're never going to be a top general or a top governor. Not unless they live a very, very long time. So that's where I'm going to leave it. I hope it's been useful to watch this video. Hopefully it's learned. It's going to be useful. And if anyone out there, you have any ideas about even if you disagree with what I've said, feel free to comment. But if you feel there's something that you think that's worth covering in as a tutorial or as a get started or something like that, feel free to add the comment. I will look at it and see if I can turn it into a video, although I must admit some of them do prove a challenge to illustrate points. So that's where I'm going to leave it, and until the next time, enjoy your gaming.